Carl Fredricksen was a quiet boy who wore big glasses, an old pilot's cap, and goggles. He loved watching movies about a famous explorer named Charles F. Muntz. Carl looked up to Muntz and wanted to be just like him. One day, Carl heard sad news. Muntz had been accused of lying about a giant bird skeleton he said he found in Paradise Falls, South America. People believed he made it up, so he lost his job. To prove everyone wrong, Muntz left in his huge airship, the Spirit of Adventure, along with his team of dogs. He promised to return with a living bird to prove he was telling the truth. His airship had many modern features, like a bath for dogs and a machine that could walk them. One day, Carl met a lively and brave girl named Ellie. She also admired Muntz and dreamed of becoming an explorer. Ellie invited Carl to join her adventure club. To make it special, she gave him a grape soda bottle cap as a badge. Ellie was cheerful, bold, and full of ideas. She made Carl try new things and helped him come out of his shell. She told Carl she wanted to move her clubhouse, an old empty house nearby, to a cliff beside Paradise Falls. She made Carl promise to help her do it one day. As they grew older, Carl and Ellie fell in love, got married, and fixed up the old house. Carl worked selling balloons, and Ellie became a zookeeper. They were happy spending time together and enjoying small moments in life. They also dreamed of going to Paradise Falls. Ellie became pregnant, but sadly, she had a miscarriage. The doctor later told them they couldn't have children. It was a sad time, but they stayed strong and kept going. They began saving money in a jar for their trip to Paradise Falls. However, life kept getting in the way. They needed to spend the money on emergencies, a flat car tire, Carl's leg injury, house repairs after a storm knocked over a tree. Every time they saved money, something happened that made them use it. Years passed. Carl and Ellie grew old. One day, Carl decided to surprise Ellie with plane tickets to South America. But before they could go, Ellie got sick. She had to stay in the hospital. She gave Carl her scrapbook, which was full of memories from their life together. Soon after, Ellie passed away. Carl was left alone in their house, holding the scrapbook and remembering the promise he had made. Now, Carl is in his late 70s. He still lives in the same house he shared with Ellie, even though the neighborhood around it is being torn down and rebuilt. Big buildings are being made, but Carl refuses to sell his home. One day, some construction workers accidentally damage his mailbox. The mailbox is very special to Carl because he and Ellie had painted it together. Carl gets upset and hits one of the workers with his cane. Because of this, the court says Carl is a danger to others. He is forced to leave his house and move into a retirement home. But Carl doesn't want to go. Instead, he comes up with a plan to keep his promise to Ellie and go to Paradise Falls. The next morning, when workers from the Shady Oaks retirement home arrive to take him away, they are shocked. Carl has tied thousands of helium balloons to his house. The balloons lift the house off the ground and into the sky, carrying Carl with it. He uses curtains as sails and a wind vane as a rudder to help guide the house through the air. Carl sets a course straight for South America. But Carl is not alone. A 13-year-old boy named Russell is also in the house. Russell is a member of the Wilderness Explorers, Tribe 54, Sweat Lodge 12. He had visited Carl earlier to try to earn his last merit badge, assisting the elderly. He needed this final badge to become a senior wilderness explorer. Carl had asked Russell to find a bird called a snipe that was bothering him, thinking it was just a way to get rid of him. But when Carl launched the house into the sky, Russell had been on the front porch. Now he is stuck on the journey. Carl lets Russell inside the house and decides to bring him back home. But before they can turn around, a strong thunderstorm appears. The house shakes and bounces in the clouds. Somehow, they both survive. When the storm ends, the house floats down and lands near a big cliff with a deep valley between them and Paradise Falls. Carl tries to lower the house by letting some balloons go. But the house hits the ground too hard, and many balloons get damaged. Carl and Russell are knocked out of the house but hold onto it using a garden hose tied to the porch. When the fog lifts, they see that they have landed on a high, flat land across from Paradise Falls. The house is still floating, but not enough to fly again. Carl and Russell tie themselves to the floating house and start walking it across the land, pulling it with the hose. They hope to reach the falls before all the balloons lose their air. While Carl and Russell are making their way across the land, something else is happening deep in the jungle. 3 dogs, each wearing collars with red lights, are chasing a giant bird. The bird runs quickly through the trees. But suddenly, the dogs stop. Their sharp ears have picked up a high-pitched sound. It is Carl's hearing aid making a small noise while being adjusted. The dogs lose the bird's trail. Later, Carl and Russell come across a very tall and colorful bird. The bird cannot fly and makes loud, funny noises. Russell quickly grows fond of the bird and names it Kevin. Kevin seems to be trying to get back to her chicks. Carl wants to keep moving, but Kevin keeps following them. Then they meet a dog named Doug. Doug is friendly and has a special collar that lets him talk. The collar can turn his thoughts into human words. Doug says that he was sent on a mission to find the bird. At first, Carl tries to get rid of Kevin and Doug, but he gives up after failing to escape them. He allows both Kevin and Doug to come along. Meanwhile, the 3 dogs that had been chasing Kevin have picked up the scent of Carl and Russell. They call Carl the mailman. Their leader is a Doberman Pinscher named Alpha. The others are Beta, a strong Rottweiler, and Gamma, a bulldog. Alpha reminds the others to stay focused and keep looking for the bird. Earlier, Alpha had sent Doug on a fake mission to keep him away. But now, Alpha hears Doug's voice through the collar communicator. Doug is talking about the bird and says he is with the mailman and a boy. Alpha realizes that Doug has found the bird. He turns on a tracking signal in Doug's collar so they can find his exact location. Carl, Russell, Doug, and Kevin soon run into the dog pack led by Alpha. Kevin gets scared and runs away into the jungle. Carl and Russell are surrounded and taken by the dogs. The dogs lead them to their master. To Carl's surprise, their master is none other than Charles Muntz. He is now 92 years old. Charles Muntz invites Carl and Russell onto his giant airship, the Spirit of Adventure. The ship is anchored deep inside a tall cave. Muntz now lives there with all his dogs. The dogs serve him in many ways, they even cook his meals. At first, Carl is excited and feels happy to meet his childhood hero. Muntz seems kind and proud to show them around. Muntz tells Carl and Russell that ever since people called him a liar, he has spent all his time looking for the bird at Paradise Falls. He shows them a large skeleton of the bird he is trying to catch. When Russell looks closely, he says the skeleton looks a lot like Kevin. Muntz explains that he has tried many times to trap the bird. He says the bird lives in a maze-like jungle, and it's almost impossible to find a way out. Years can pass without seeing it. Many of his dogs have already been lost trying to catch the bird. As Carl and Russell listen, they slowly start to see that something is not right. Muntz doesn't seem like a brave explorer anymore. He seems obsessed and angry. Carl begins to feel uneasy. Then, Russell says something without thinking. He tells Muntz that he and Carl have seen the bird and that they even gave it chocolate. He tells Muntz that they named the bird Kevin. This makes Muntz angry very suddenly. At that moment, Kevin suddenly appears inside the cave and calls out loudly. Muntz is distracted for a second. Carl and Russell take this chance to run away. They leave the airship as fast as they can. Kevin, Carl, Russell, and Doug all try to escape together. Muntz's dogs chase them through the jungle. Carl and Russell ride on Kevin's back while Doug helps by fighting off some of the dogs. Doug happily calls Carl his new master. They all barely escape, but Kevin is hurt during the chase. After escaping, Carl hears Kevin calling out to her chicks in the distance. He sees how badly Kevin wants to return to her family. Moved by this, Carl agrees to help take Kevin home. They walk through the jungle toward the place where Kevin came from. Kevin becomes excited as they get closer. She runs ahead toward a large area filled with thick jungle paths, the labyrinth where she lives. But just before Kevin can reach the entrance to her home, a large net shoots out and traps her. Carl and Russell try to help Kevin, but Muntz catches up with them quickly. To stop them, Muntz starts a fire under Carl's floating house. The flames begin to rise. Carl now faces a hard choice. He must either save his house or save Kevin. Carl looks torn. In the end, he chooses to save his house. He runs to put out the fire as fast as he can. But while Carl is busy, Muntz takes Kevin and flies away with her. Later, Carl and Russell finally reach the cliff beside Paradise Falls, the place he and Ellie had always dreamed of visiting. Carl sets the house down. But there is no joy. Russell is upset and angry. He feels Carl chose the house over doing the right thing and helping Kevin. Carl sits alone in the quiet house, feeling sad and empty. Then he opens Ellie's old childhood scrapbook. He turns the pages and sees all the memories of their life together, pictures of their wedding, vacations, and quiet times at home. Toward the end of the book, Carl finds something he never noticed before, a final note from Ellie. She thanks Carl for the wonderful adventure they shared and writes that now it's time for him to go on a new one. These words touch Carl deeply. He realizes Ellie would want him to keep living and keep exploring. With new hope in his heart, Carl hurries outside to find Russell. But Russell is already gone. Carl looks up and sees him floating away, holding on to some balloons. Russell has gone off on his own to rescue Kevin. Carl knows he has to help. He rushes inside the house and begins tossing out all the furniture and belongings. He makes the house lighter so it can lift off the ground again. Then, with determination, Carl sets out into the sky to go after Russell and rescue Kevin. Russell flies off on his own using balloons to try and rescue Kevin. But when he reaches the spirit of adventure, he is captured by Muntz. Muntz locks him up to keep him from interfering. Soon after, Carl arrives. He has flown the house all the way to the airship. Carl boards the moving dirigible and finds Russell. He also finds Kevin. With courage and quick thinking, Carl manages to free both of them. Muntz becomes furious. He chases Carl, Russell, Kevin, and Doug all over the airship. The chase is dangerous, and Muntz is determined not to let them escape again. Finally, he corners them inside Carl's floating house, which is still tied to the side of the airship. Thinking fast, Carl opens a window and calls out to Kevin. Kevin jumps through the window, with Russell and Doug hanging on to her back. Just as they escape, Muntz tries to jump after them. But he gets his foot caught in the ropes tied to the balloons. He is pulled away and falls down through the sky. He disappears into the clouds and dies. After the struggle, the ropes tying Carl's house to the airship snap. The house gently floats down through the clouds and out of sight. Carl watches it go and feels at peace. He understands that it's time to let go and that this is what Ellie would have wanted. Carl, Russell, and Doug take Kevin back to her home. Kevin is finally reunited with her chicks. The moment is happy and full of relief. Then, Carl, Russell, and Doug fly the spirit of adventure back to the city. There, a ceremony is being held for Russell. It is the Senior Wilderness Explorer ceremony. But Russell's father does not show up. Carl steps in. He proudly gives Russell his final badge, the one for assisting the elderly. Then, Carl adds something very special, the grape soda bottle cap that Ellie gave him when they were kids. He pins it on Russell's uniform and calls it the Ellie badge. Meanwhile, far away in South America, Carl's house is shown resting peacefully on the cliff beside Paradise Falls, the very spot Ellie had dreamed of. He finally kept his promise to her. Later, a series of pictures shows Carl and Russell enjoying life together. Carl becomes like a grandfather to Russell. They go on new adventures, laugh together, and build a special bond. Carl has found a new purpose, a new adventure, and a new family. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.